tonight. A former Mountie is sentenced to 11 years behind bars in the killing of his lover. We learn more about Saskatoon's latest homicide victim. And tensions are growing in Richmound, 9 months after the QAnon queen and her cult moved in.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, June 18th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. A former Mountie was in court to face justice today. Bernie Herman was sentenced in Prince Albert for killing his former lover. CBC's Jason Warwick was there, and a warning, some of the details in this report are disturbing.
This afternoon, Bernie Herman was led out of court and taken to prison. The longtime RCMP officer was sentenced today in the killing of his former lover, Braden Herman. The two are not related. Bernie Herman had earlier been convicted of manslaughter. Today, he was sentenced to 11 years in jail. His victim's brother says that's not nearly long enough.
It's as fair as it's going to be for this country. Just the way our system's set up, it's not really set up too great, so that's probably as best we're going to get. Nothing will ever bring my brother back, and no sentence will be right.
Court heard how the two were in a romantic relationship. Bernie Herman fatally shot Braden Herman with his RCMP service pistol in a remote field, left him naked, and drove over him as he fled the scene, all while wearing his RCMP uniform. The Crown prosecutor says this is an extreme case of intimate partner violence.
The decision today is a significant sentence in a case that recognized that there was an element of intimate partner violence that drove this behavior. We know that intimate partner violence is a huge problem in our province, and what Bernie Herman did in killing Braden Herman, there can be no mistake, was the ultimate act of domestic violence.
But the judge also noted several mitigating factors. He said Bernie Herman confessed early in the process, pointed investigators to the body's location, and was deemed a low risk to reoffend.
I expect they'll want to keep an eye out for him, though, obviously. That's one of the factors that we had in the case law, talking about, when you're a police officer, you're potentially at higher risk and you have a target on your back, so it's going to be a difficult situation for him.
Herman's lawyer says he has not yet had a chance to speak to his client, but when he does, they'll discuss the option of an appeal. As for the Crown, they were initially pressing for a murder conviction, but the manslaughter conviction is something that they're already appealing, and they'll consider an appeal of the sentence as well. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Prince Albert.
We're learning more tonight about Saskatoon's latest homicide victim. 66-year-old Harvey Zerb was out on an early morning walk from his personal care home last Wednesday. He was later found injured in the parking lot of Fairhaven School. Now, nearly a week later, police are still looking for suspects. Dan Zakreski brings us the latest.
If they free me from this prison, if that railroad train were mine, I said I'd move on a little farther down the line.
Harvey Zerb loved Johnny Cash and playing guitar. He grew up on a family farm near Vanscoy and loved horses and his large extended family. Harvey Zerb lived in a personal care home just down the street from this school. Last Wednesday morning, the 66-year-old walked to a 7-Eleven across this park.
Sometimes he gets tired waiting for breakfast and then he heads out.
Daryl, running around, lived with him in the care home.
I woke up in the morning, he was gone, so I thought, well, another moment to 7, I guess. And then about, 8, something like that, 7 or 8, I noticed there was CBC out there, and then the police are pulling in, and so I don't know. And then the owner, or the manager, had come and told us that Harvey was found outside beside the school.
It was bad. Police sealed off the parking lot. Yellow evidence markers were arranged across a pool of blood. Harvey Zerb died in hospital that day, the city's 11th violent death this year. People in the neighborhood wonder whether Zerb's death is linked to the Saskatoon Tribal Council's Wellness Centre. It's been a sore point since opening in the fall of 2022. Longtime homeowners say the neighborhood has changed.
I've raised 3 kids in the neighborhood. They all were able to walk to the parks, go to the 7-Eleven the whole time. Now, most people don't leave their kids play in the parks or go to the 7-Eleven by themselves just because of what's accumulated here since the homeless shelter has arrived.
A week later, and police are still searching for suspects. They hope someone caught something on camera. They're throwing the net wide because there's no security cameras here at Fairhaven School. Now, the school division says some of its schools do have cameras, but not all, because it's too expensive to equip them all. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Muscadet First Nation is raising awareness about drug toxicity, and people from the First Nation did it by walking 350 kilometers over 8 days to the Legislative Building in Regina. At one point, organizers say there were more than 20 walkers.
We want people to start talking about crystal meth and how it affects their family. We want people to talk about fentanyl overdose because it affects a lot more people, and we're left here to hurt, carry the pain. So share some of that pain, we'll carry it for you. So we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going.
Prosper recognized the help they received from community members along the way. The Saskatchewan Coroner's Service has reported 174 confirmed and suspected drug toxicity deaths in the first 3 months of this year alone. Shelley Asakin joined the walk with her daughter. For them, this issue is personal.
It's affected me because I lost my son, my oldest son, Colin Canapes. My son passed away in my home, in his room. My daughter was the one that found him. And we've lost a lot in my family. Altogether in the last year, I'd say we lost about 5 or 6. But this one is close to my heart. That's my son, my everything. The addiction, the fentanyl. It started with the crystal meth, and then it went into the fentanyl. And I really wanted to honor my son. My son was a good boy. My son was a grass dancer. He danced powwow. My son sang powwow. He had his own hand drum. He was a grade A student. You know, he was the one that if the teacher asked a question, he was the one that put his hand up right away and knew the answer. I was telling him, you know, he could tell you things you didn't know that he knew, and he shared with us. And we miss him. We miss him a lot. He left a gap in my heart. And doing this walk is a lot. It means a lot to me. I started by myself. I had no family. I put it out there, you know, let's do this. And I'm glad that I did. I'm grateful for these ladies that put it on, because it's wiping out a generation, a whole generation. These drugs are what they're doing. And I wish that we could put a stop to it, but how will we do that? They seem to be out there winning, and we're losing. This generation is losing.
To southwestern Saskatchewan now, where it's been 9 months since a cult moved into a village. Romana Didalo is the self-described Queen of Canada, known for her QAnon and anti-vaccine beliefs. She and her followers are still living in Richmound near Leader. And many say the village has never been more divided. Laura Sharpaletti has more.
This was last fall in Richmound, a village of around 150 people. It was after the arrival of Romana Didalo and her Kingdom of Canada followers. Residents protested the group's takeover of a former school, and tensions are still high today. People have been repeatedly threatened and filmed by cult members. Experts say Didalo has a deep-rooted paranoia toward government institutions, which she's helped to instill in her followers. The mayor of Richmound says the village is being torn apart.
We found out who really wanted her gone and who helped her stay. And there's a handful of people fighting us every step of the way. So meetings were interrupted. You know, in a small town and village, there's lots of stuff that goes wrong, like infrastructure and water treatment plant. And that stuff is sort of on the back burner.
Miller feels different levels of government haven't done anything to help people deal with the cult's presence there. Meanwhile, RCMP have maintained an active presence in Richmound.
They certainly have a right to live and reside in that community, and there's nothing that the RCMP can do to prohibit that.
Bates says RCMP have not been able to track threats against village residents to any specific person, especially since Didolo communicates with the majority of her followers online. One Richmound resident, whose identity CBC is protecting, says people continue to feel unsafe.
Worst case scenario is somebody's going to snap. Who can say whether a local person will get so fed up that they'll go and do something, willing to do something and end up going to jail to try to stop this problem. Some of her followers might say, that's enough of this BS in Richmound. Let's go take them out.
Another resident says some people may move to get away from the tension.
It feels like we're living next to a dormant volcano. Worst case scenario is that they get themselves elected to village council and start making their own rules.
Doug Steele, the MLA for the area, tells CBC the safety of Richmound is a top priority for him. He says he understands people's frustration and pledged the provincial government will help any way it can. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Award-winning author Michelle Good is in Regina for a public conversation about her new book. Truth-Telling, 7 Conversations About Indigenous Life in Canada was published last year. And tonight at Regina Public Library's Central Branch, Good will join CBC's Catherine Cullen for a discussion about the book and field audience questions. Good recently joined CBC Radio's Blue Sky. She says one aim of the book is that truth must come before reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
The other thing about truth-telling is to say that we, for hundreds of years in Canada, have been living with a myth of Canadian history. The history that has been taught in our schools is inaccurate, and certainly not through the lens of Indigenous experience. And that was a main objective with writing Truth-Telling, was to get under that myth and get down to how Indigenous people experienced Canadian history.
The Governor General Award-winning author is a member of Red Pheasant Cree Nation. Tonight's event is sold out, but will be broadcast on the June 29th edition of CBC Radio's The House. Well, one Saskatoon Edmonton Oilers fan might just have a career in predicting the future. 6 years ago, William Demetro didn't know what to write for his graduating yearbook quote. So the Centennial Collegiate grad, decided to go with Edmonton Oilers 2024. Watch it happen. Demetro says he picked a random date at the time, but now it feels like a prophecy.
As a kid, my mood would be changing based on if they won or if they lost, which probably wasn't a good thing, but it was, right? And I just remember going through the 2010s, really tough years, getting last place, so many first overall picks, being frustrated. But hey, look at us now. I saw the Oilers in their toughest times. Now we're seeing the Oilers in their best times, and they're just going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I'm confident.
Demetro's confidence has not wavered even when Edmonton lost the first 3 games of the series. However, the Oilers coming back from a 3-0 deficit would be quite the feat. That's something only one team has ever done in a Stanley Cup final. That was the Toronto Maple Leafs back in 1942. Well, don't let that sunshine fool you. It was actually a chilly one in Saskatoon today, and the breeze made it feel a little cooler still. That did not stop people from getting out and about, though, and there are warmer days ahead eventually. Tyreek Reed will tell us about that in his forecast when we come back.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And welcome back. Weather specialist Tyreek Reed joining us now. A less eventful weather day today, Ty, but you do have an update on some recent severe weather.
Exactly, Ethan. You know, last week we were met with those very strong winds in the east, even some tornado warnings, and we did get a tornado in Saltcote, Saskatchewan. Our friends over at the Northern Tornadoes Project gave that an EF0 rating, which meant that there wasn't a lot of damage caused from this tornado. But yeah, so that did happen. Luckily, we aren't still dealing with any tornadoes anymore, but we do still have a system of rain moving through southern Saskatchewan, including right here in Regina. We do have the potential to see that tonight. And our friends over in the west are also dealing with some precipitation as well. So, you know, we are done with the tornadoes, but we're not done with the wind just yet. I mean, the rain just yet. Now, looking ahead at the temperatures right here, still below seasonal throughout the province. We're only seeing daytime highs around 8 degrees in Collins Bay. As we head down into south and central Saskatchewan, we're only sitting at around 14 degrees in Regina. Once again, we want to be in the 20s for this time of the year. We're not quite there yet, but we will be getting there later on this week. For now, we're going to see that system of rain continue to move through southern Saskatchewan, and we'll still see that tomorrow morning as well. As we head into tomorrow, we'll still start to see more showers in places like Regina, and that does have the potential to turn into thunderstorms later on tomorrow evening. As we head into Thursday, that's when we'll be met with mostly dry weather, but we do have the potential to see some pop-up showers later on Thursday evening. So not quite done with those umbrellas just yet. As all of this is over, we'll only be left with a few millimeters of rain, mainly in south and central Saskatchewan. So nothing too severe from this rainfall that we've been met with. Now, of course, wind speeds have been quite low throughout most of the week. And as we head into Wednesday, that's when they'll start to pick up a lot more as this next system of rain moves in. We're going to be seeing wind speeds at around 40 kilometers an hour for gusts here in Regina. So you're going to want to hold on to your hats there. Now let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. As I mentioned, those seasonal temperatures are going to be coming back in. We're going to be seeing daytime highs around 24 degrees on Thursday, and that's going to remain pretty consistent throughout the week ahead and even into next week as we get further into summer. And over in Saskatoon as well, much drier conditions. We're mainly seeing all of that precipitation down south, like right here in Regina. As we head further into the week, like on Friday and Saturday, that's when that rainfall starts to move back into central areas of the province. But once again, seeing more seasonal temperatures, and that's going to remain pretty consistent as we head further into the week and into the week ahead. We're seeing daytime highs in the 20s. So yeah, Ethan, as I mentioned, that warmer weather is going to be coming back in.
Yeah, I haven't been a big fan of wearing my early spring jacket these
Me neither.
past
I've
couple
had
days.
to start taking it with me as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, looking forward to the warm-up. Thanks so much, Ty.
No problem.
Well, move over King Kong. The top of the Empire State Building has a new tenant. Kong's old stomping ground is now the temporary lair of an 80-meter-long dragon. It's wrapped around the building's spire as a promotion for the new season of HBO's Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. The huge beast will hang from his perch through tomorrow. We'll be back after the break. Do you feel like you're being nickel and dimed by the airlines, charged extra for everything they can think of? Well, Canadians have been angry about increased fees, and the latest round have a lot of people talking. Sophia Harris has that story.
Airline fees aren't new. For years, Canadians have been shelling out for the extras, such as meals and checked baggage. But now, some major airlines are adding fees for features traditionally included in the ticket price, and that has sparked customer backlash. Air Canada recently introduced a new fee for economy seat selection at check-in. Following customer complaints, the fee disappeared, but Air Canada told me it was paused for technical reasons and will return. Meanwhile, WestJet is now charging $25 to book economy fares by phone. It has also added new fees to its lowest fare, now called Ultra Basic. Ultra Basic customers must pay an added charge for carry-on. They will also be seated at the back of the plane unless they pay for seat selection. I spoke with a WestJet passenger who typically books the lowest fare. Here's what she had to say about Ultra Basic.
It's actually specifically like they're trying to punish people for wanting to pay less. That's actually what the message is being sent to me. It's like, fine, you think you can pay the least amount for a ticket? Well, we'll show you.
So what can be done about the growing list of airline fees? The federal government says it's working to make them more transparent. Typically, on airlines' websites, fees aren't listed on the same page as ticket prices. So some consumer advocates say more transparency would be helpful.
If it was all in the same page for each air carrier, it would be much easier for consumers to have a full idea of what they're paying and be able to compare prices.
But more transparency won't get rid of airline fees, and airlines say fees actually benefit customers because they keep base fares low and passengers only pay for the added features they want. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, one thing you never have to shell out any extra money for, Tyreek Reed with a look at the forecast.
Thank you, Ethan. Yeah, so tonight temperatures will drop to around 7 degrees here in Regina. As we wake up tomorrow morning, we're going to be met with those showers that we've been talking about, and that will continue into tomorrow afternoon. But once again, temperatures are expected to warm up tomorrow for daytime highs. In Saskatoon, similar temperatures tonight as well, really feeling that cooler air tonight throughout south and central Saskatchewan with partly cloudy sky conditions. Heading into tomorrow morning, much drier conditions for our friends over in Saskatoon. But of course, heading into the afternoon hours, that's when that warmth will really start to come back in, and we'll be seeing daytime highs around 18 degrees there, Ethan.
Okay, looking like a drier day. Thank you, Ty.
Yes, no problem.
And before we go, we told you last night about a new app that uses augmented reality to bring buffalo to a Regina park. Today, that app officially launched.
It's been like a lot of work, and it's cool to see like people walking around. We had a school come by here, and they brought like the entire school, and they had all the iPads, and it was so awesome to see them walking around, and they're just smiling and just looking at the different things, and to see their reactions. It's so rewarding.
People can use their devices to see items like crocuses and teepees and, of course, buffalo walking beside them. It's a project that's been years in the works. People can scan a QR code at the park, formerly known as Regent Pool Park, to check out the app. Very neat. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, of course, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask, subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.